Good morning, Rajesh sir. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So we'll wait for 1 more minute, sir. Let our CEO join and we will start. You are able to see me, sir?
Sure, sir. Sir.
Yeah. Can we stop this screen share, sir, so that we can quickly start? People are joining. Now we can start.
So I think yes, you can do it. Yeah, start.
Yeah, yes. So good morning to all. This is Saravanan from ICT Academy. So on behalf of ICT Academy, I take immense pleasure in welcoming you all for this hackathon, a 24 hours bot building competition in association with UiPath and Honeywell. So we have with us Mr. Rajesh Nambiar from UiPath. Welcome you, sir. So I also have Mr. Hari Balachandran, the CEO of ICT Academy, who will be delivering the inaugural keynote. So welcome you, sir. So it is today we have joined for this competition, and today is an industry expert session where Mr. The technical resource from UiPath will be giving us a session on how to build a bot. So with this, let me hand over the session to our CEO, Mr. Hari Balachandran, to give the inaugural keynote.
Good morning to all of you present for this session. On behalf of ICT Academy, I extend my wholehearted welcome to Mr. Rajesh Nambiar, Director of Learning Alliances and Certification, and his team from UiPath. I extend my welcome to all the educators and students from various institutions across India for this Youth Hackathon 2022, an initiative of ICT Academy in association with our partners UiPath, Honeywell, Hometown Solutions India Limited. Technology that seems to be impossible years ago is now a reality. Business process automation uses technology to increase efficiency and improve the bottom line. This has become the fastest growing segment in the enterprise software in the past few years. More and more businesses have increasingly automating the processes over past decades. Nowadays, automation in business is only gaining momentum and is showing no signs of slowing down. However, automation is not just about removing people from the picture. I have known of examples where the salary processing in various companies are completely automated by bots. The automation of business processes using software for software solutions allow better allocation of resources and increased productivity. Most of the solutions that are revolving around these manual transactional processes have become very important for organizations to increase their productivity over a period of time and sustained use and reduce their investments. With this objective in mind, we have launched this Youth India Hackathon 2020. This initiative is to enable the power and the skill set of automation to anyone interested in bot development. This hackathon empowers the students on UiPath Studio X, a no-code platform, and offers them an experience of actual automation building process of a bot. This will raise awareness of robotic process automation, or RPA as it's called, and cross the first milestone for becoming the first citizen bot developer. We have thought through this process with several inputs from industry experts and launched this 24-hour hackathon. And this will be a continuous engagement of ICT Academy, UiPath, Honeywell every year. This is the first year we are launching this initiative, and we have received a tremendous response from students, and close to 10,000 students from 275 institutions across India have registered on attending today's industry experts session. Post this session, you will be developing your own bot for the next 24 hours, starting tomorrow, and submitting the bot, which will be evaluated by experts from industry and finally select the toppers for this competition and be awarded certificates and goodies. Once again, I welcome all of you to the Youth India Hackathon 2022 and wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So may I now request Mr. Rajesh Nambiar from UiPath to give his initial remarks before we hand out the session to Leah.
Thank you, Saronan. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Hari Balachandran, CEO ICT Academy, for taking time and joining us for the inauguration. It is our first event together after our Skillathon, and I hope all of you will contribute to making this a big success. My gratitude to Saravanan and his team for making this event possible in such a short span of time. And also, a big thanks to all the faculty coordinators from the institutions who've actually volunteered to bring in their students as part of this effort. So as we get started, I think I wanted to set some context on what is the need of the program, what are we trying to achieve, and what is the format. So as Saravanan mentioned, my name is Rajesh Nambiar. I'm part of a team that works within UiPath, where we are working with universities, college students to help them build skills around intelligent automation and predominantly around RPA as a skill set, right? So we've the last 3 years of the program for us, we've been able to bring in close to 1,000+ universities and colleges across India with the single motive that we want to upskill students and prepare them for the future of work, which all of us have been all of us are seeing disrupt that for that. And while we were having this discussion, that is when on how do we address a unique or a new avenue that is coming up in our industry, which is called citizen developer, right? We've all been hearing about developers or being technical for being technical roles that are coming up, but I think one of the very powerful roles that is coming in is citizen developer, and that is when ICT Academy and proposed to actually leverage this platform that they've created together with Honeywell as part of the first India Hackathon, and explore this opportunity for these students. Now, what is citizen development, right? I think that is most important that we all need to understand. And why is it relevant for all of us? As I do understand today, we have a mix of technical and non-technical students. But then, as I said, this skill that we are going to acquire in the next 3 or 4 days' time is relevant for each one of us. And there is a big importance for that that we are looking at. So for us, I think in our industry, for us, a citizen developer is any end user who is able to create applications by himself with minimal coding, right? And it is something that is picking up in a big way, where we are seeing individuals who are business users looking at creating bots to, simple automation solutions that they can apply on a day-to-day basis, right? It could be user interface automation, browser automation, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, or files. Because if you look at, if you Once you get into the IT industry, this typically is the interface that you will actually be interacting with on a day-to-day basis, right? And what if you could actually build capability to automate some of these processes, right? The amount of time that you would save, the amount of value that you can bring back to your organization is huge. And that's one of the reasons we believe as UiPath, and not just as the and from an industry perspective, we believe the next biggest opportunity for IT industry is actually to create citizen developers, right? What if each one of us could actually create simple bots, simple solutions that can help us solve our problem? And I'm sure our problem today is productivity. Our problem is is a time, is a solution that can help us improve or reduce the workload that we have. And I think that's where automation plays a big role. As Hari was mentioning earlier, automation has become disruptive in the in our industry, not just because it is. I think the notion of it being, it replacing work has to be taken out. What we need to understand is the future of work. The future of work will be a mix of physical workforce and digital workforce, right? Digital workforce could be something that, as he gave an example, where software robots would actually be able to, run a payroll cycle and help you with all the processes that are there. Or it could be anything else that we can look at, right? But what in effect is coming out will be much more efficient organization, much more happier employee. And I'm sure all of us can correlate, right? When you're happy, you will tend to contribute more to the organization, and that will make it much more easier for everybody to look at, right? So this hackathon, we've tried to leverage on some of these opportunities. Now, as you know, the new education policy, we focus more on has had a big focus on skill-based learning, and I think this hackathon will primarily help you build that skill that we are going to talk about. And next few days we'll actually look at creating citizen developers out of you, so that you can not just solve your problems, but then also solve problems of your professors, your parents, or your friends who are around us. And I think this skill or capability that you will acquire will help you solve some of these problems for that, right? Now, you've seen the agenda that was shared, but what I wanted to also focus here is to just run you through the activities, or maybe Saran, we can do that a little later for that. But then the whole focus for us is not just to give you the knowledge, but then to drive critical thinking, creativity, curiosity, and how do you communicate, right? And I think these are key skills for all of you that you would acquire in the process, right from the self-learning modules that we gave you, to sitting in an expert session today, tomorrow looking at building these bots, submitting that project across with your idea, and then in the end going out and presenting that. So I hope you will all have a good learning across the next 3 or 4 days time, and the skills that you learn as part of it will help you in your career, whether you join any industry for that purpose, right? So, and that's the beauty of being a citizen developer, that you don't have to join an IT industry. You could actually look at absorbing that knowledge across to that. There is a student guide that was passed on. I think we can push that update on the chat, and I'm sure you would have received that mail. It has all the instructions regarding that, and I'm sure our instructor Niaz Ahmed will also cover that for you. Niaz has been part of our team for about 2+ years now, and he's been passionately working with the academic audiences. So I'm sure he'll, while we have kept this as a 3-hour session in the first half and 3-hour session in the second half, I'm sure he'll do everything possible to make sure these sessions are enjoyable, interesting, and will also inspire you to be part of it. Wishing all the very best. We probably look forward to maybe 1,000 bots being built as part of this effort as an initial milestone, maybe much higher than that. But I think I'll leave that for you to imagine or dream for. The opportunity is there in your hand. Please go ahead and leverage it. Thank you so much. Back to you, Saran.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your initial thoughts. Now it is time to hand over the session to Mr. Niaz Ahmed, the technical person from UiPath, who will be spending the whole day with the students. So over to you, Mr. Niaz.
Yes, thank you so much, Saravanan, and a very good morning to all of you. and welcome to this hackathon session, which is the session on industry expert and what are we going to do today. Of course, we'll start in a bit, but let me just quickly go ahead and share my screen first, and then we'll get started. Okay, awesome. So I hope my screen is visible to all of you. And of course, the very first slide that you see on your screen is, what does RPA or robotic process automation means, right? Because until unless we don't define this very well, then the event that you're participating, would not be very fruitful. And whatever you will be doing across, in this 2, 3, 4 days of time that you have, is and will be revolving around the term robotic process automation, right? So I hope every one of you have the student guide with you. If not, then of course we will push it again into the chat window, and so that all of you can download it from there, and then we can move ahead. And to all the all your friends who haven't joined yet, you can always go ahead and ping them, call them, and tell them to join the session. So we are streaming on YouTube also, so the link is also there. So people can join on Zoom, and people can also connect on YouTube, whichever is preferable to the audiences. So with that being said, let's move ahead and let's start with the term called as RPA or robotic process automation. Right now, of course, if you are very tech savvy, or if you are following the industry very well, throughout the past 2.5 years, till from the time when COVID hit us, you would have hearing the word automation is booming into the industry. Of course, when we talk about automation in the IT industry, especially, we are speaking about the term robotic process automation, right? So when we hear the word robotic, of course, when I was also in the college, assuming you are all also in the college, we would always assume that whenever a term robotic comes into picture, we would be dealing with a hardware component, right? Because this is what was taught in our college, right? We would have a session on robotic, or maybe a mechanical subject where we would build some EC, VCs and all those things, and we would build some, hardware out of it. But when we speak about robotic with respect to the software or with respect to the IT world, we are speaking about a digital robot, or we're speaking about a software robot, right? Which means that is not physically present, but yes, it still exists. And where does it exist? It exists on your monitor, right? Monitor in the sense, the screen which you're looking at, right? But ideally, it is sitting on your machine. It could be a laptop or desktop, whatever you're using over there, right? And of course, we will look at, how do we get the robots into a machine? It's very easy setup and all. But yes, we're speaking about physical robot. And moving ahead, I would not be calling it as robot. I would just call it as a bot, BOT. So bot is also a synonym to a software robot that we'll be dealing across. Now, let's understand, the word process, right? Of course, I'm assuming you would have all understood, what we are speaking about robotic here. But when we speak about a process is nothing but, a step of a task that you do on a daily basis, right? Now, say for example, you log in into your computer or your machine, and then, you have to do a following set of tasks. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There are multiple steps. You combine all the multiple steps, and then you complete a process. So those multiple steps that you do is called as a process. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to automate those multiple processes that you have, right? Say for example, if you look at the industrial revolution that happened, one of the very famous example that I always relate to is the a car manufacturing example, right? Earlier, of course, we had a lot of a human workforce that was required in order to start the manufacturing process of a car, right? I mean, each and every bits of the car was being created, handled by a human workforce. But as soon as industrial revolution took place, it started booming, and a lot of processes started getting automated, right? So nowadays you can see one arm robot or two arm robot coming into existence, and then it is helping the human to get the job done, and also at a very faster way. Even the IT industry is also going with the same phase over here, which is just a second. Okay, right. So even the IT industry is also dealing with the same, issues over here, where we need a assistant, where we need a help from the outside world, where it can help us to complete the process at a much faster way, right? Now that is where the bots come into picture, where a series of tasks that you do on a daily basis, things would be automated from now onwards, right? Now, of course, when you look at the term robotic process automation, there is a lot of things that we cover over here in the robotic process automation. But let's try to understand the details in a very minute way, right? Because of course we would always have heard about robotic process automation, or we would have learned about it, but it's very important to understand what exactly an RPA can do, or what exactly RPA as a technology is capable of doing it, right? Of course, the whole session is around UiPath, but we'll touch UiPath a little bit later. But let's first understand what RPA as a technology is. Once you understand that, then of course it's going to be very easy for you to proceed forward, right? And of course, once we complete RPA and all those fundamental things, then we'll slowly move on to the phase of hackathon. Again, I'll guide you across what are you supposed to do, how are you supposed to build your bots and all those things, your submission, everything will happen in this session that we have today, right? So we have session in two parts, part 1 and part 2. So we'll be breaking in for a lunch in between around 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. and post that again we'll start with the session. So please feel sure that everything you have in doubts for this hackathon event that you're participating would be answered in this two sessions that we have. Okay, so that being said, let me see if I have any questions. No, let's proceed further. So right, so if you look at there are two sentences being displayed on the screen, right? On the orange side it says a manual task performed by a human in multiple actions, right? This is what I was speaking about, right? So what can an RPA do is, whatever the manual task that we used to do, maybe in multiple applications or single applications, now we will make sure we will hand it over to a software robot, and that software robot will do it for us, right? And of course, when we bring automation into existence, the rate by which we do a process and the rate by which a software robot will do a process, there would be a huge time difference, right? As in, the software robot would be able to get your job done in a much faster way compared to a human, right? For an example, if I say if I do a process and it takes me 10 minutes, I can bet you a software robot can do it within 1 minute. Right? So that's the amount of speed that we're talking about when we speak about automation. So just imagine, you're doing a job and one task takes you 10 minutes and you have, 10 such jobs to do. So ultimately you would be taking around, roughly 100 minutes to do it. But if you get in a software robot, you can get it done, within 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes also, right? Now, what is basically a software robot or an RPA can do, right? An RPA basically mimics task, right? Or basically it emulates a human action, which means I being a human, whatever steps I used to do it, the software robot should also do the same step. Now the question is, why should the software robot do the same step? The reason is because whatever task you are doing, the steps are defined. As in, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. And it has to go in the same order. So the software robot also has to do it in the same order. Sorry. And of course, you only interact with the user interface, right? Which means I have some text fields. Say, for example, I have a text field which is first name, last name, roll number, student ID, and so on and so on. And being a text field, what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to enter the data, which means I'll interact with the user interface, I'll enter the data, and then I'll proceed further. Even the software robot will also do the same thing. The software robot will also interact with the interface, and then it will start getting the data added into the system, right? So in all, it's not something which is out of the world. It's not something which is magical, right? Of course, when you build your first bot, even I had the feeling that this is something out of the world or this is something magical happening, because you would see that things which you were doing manually, now it's being getting done automatically, which means you're just sitting in your chair, relaxing, enjoying, and seeing your bot running and doing the job. But ultimately, we and you are the person who have written the code or the logic behind it or the steps behind it, and the software robot is basically following the same steps that we have to do. Clear? It's very important that the current workforce or the future workforce, which is you guys, should possess the knowledge of automation, right? Because now if you look at any of the job openings or any of the offerings on the job portal, you would see some of the jobs which are not even related to IT, they have one of the following conditions saying you should possess an automation skills, right? Because in your day-to-day life, whatever you do, let's talk only with respect to the professional world. So whatever you do professionally, there are some parts of your job which is highly manual, which is highly repetitive, and let me be frank, which is very boring, right? And it is expected that you would use such automation tools, and then you would automate that stuff, and then you will proceed further. Now, a quick, a summary about, what would be the benefits of RPA, right? Of course, right? If I say please do these following things, do this following, activity, until and unless you do not know what benefit I'll get from it, even I would also not, fall into it and do it, right? So this slide is very important, right? So this slide is very important, which speaks about whatever you are going to do, in this hackathon, or whatever skills that you're going to acquire for the RPA. This would be, some of the benefits, not all the benefits that is given over here. Now, I've listed, some of the benefits, but for me, if you ask me what is, your, favorite benefits that you would speak about, is this part, which is boosting the employee morale, right? Now, what do you mean by boosting the employee morale, right? This is what I said, just way before that, which is when you are, say for example, when you go into, placements, and, once you join the industry, of course, your role is defined. Your role is defined, which says this is what you will be doing on a day-to-day basis. But trust me, your job or your JD, your job description, whatever it says, this is what you're supposed to do. It would not be the same, throughout the journey. There would be some additional, or there would be some underlying jobs which would come on your way, and then you would have to complete it, or you will have to do it on a day-to-day basis. And frankly speaking, you would even not enjoy doing it, because that was not your core job to do it, but it becomes a part of your routine journey, right? And in order to get rid of all those jobs which are very boring, tedious, mundane, repetitive in nature, you would use, or you would apply your RPA skills, and that would boost your morale, which is you don't have to work manually to do that job. You have built the logic, you have built the code, you have built the steps behind it, and whenever that job comes to you, you will just say run, and then the software robot will do it on behalf of you, and then you can enjoy your own time over here. Maybe you can go out with your friends to canteen, enjoy coffee, and then come back, and then the moment you come back, your job would already be done, right? So this is, one of my favorite, benefits, which says, boosting the employee morale that we have over there, right? And of course, apart from that, accuracy, productivity, reliability, all those things are, of course, one of the huge benefits of RPA when you implement it, right? Accuracy is also one of the very important point, because, we being a human, we might tend to make mistakes, right? For example, you have a data with you. The data is in the form of PDF or Excel or images, say for example, and that data has to be entered, into a system. Let's say, for example, it has to be entered into a database or into, some, forms. I would, very precautionary. I would, start doing the job. First 10 entries, everything is fine. But of course, it's very tedious, boring in nature. I might tend to do mistakes where, say, for example, instead of entering the data in the first name column, I might enter the first name in the last name column. Of course, I'm pretty sure I would make such mistakes if I'm doing it for 1,000 entries daily, right? But the software robot would not make that mistakes, because steps are defined very well. This data has to go there, and then he'll follow the same data without making any mistakes. Of course, mistakes would happen. It's always, people say that, RPA, cannot make mistakes. It's a fact. It's a myth, whatever you want to call it as. But it will only make a mistakes depending upon the inputs given to it, right? So, for example, if we give wrong inputs to the software robot, then of course he's going to make mistakes, right? Then it's not, its job to, do that. It's our job to correct it, right? Productivity, of course, productivity of the employees also increase, and productivity, of your, the process also increases, right? And reliability, of course, since it's a software robot, it's running on a machine, running on a system. System can work 24/7 without any interruption. So your software robots can also run on the machine 24/7. A human cannot run 24/7, right? But the software robots can run 24/7, right? So these are, some of, the benefits of RPA, that we have, right? And altogether, people, whatever you do, right? Or, when you start developing your bots, or when you understand, what RPA is capable of, and then when you come back to this, a slide of data again, then you can always pinpoint and say that, yes, this is what I have achieved. Accuracy, yes, my accuracy is going well. Productivity is going well, and of course, my employee, my boost, my employee morale, or say for example, whatever I've built, what I see doing it, it boosts my skills, and it boosts my, skills moving forward. Now, let's look at, some of the, example which says, what an automation can do for you, right? So RPA, as the technology, one of the very first thing it always says is it will emulate a person, right? Which I've already said earlier, wherein emulate a person basically means copying the steps or working in the same manner as a human would do it, right? So I do step one, I click here, I type here, then I go to the next page. Whatever I do, my software robot is also going to do the same thing, which is what we say, emulation, emulating a person, right? And then the next question is, would the software robots be able to make decisions? Yes, the software robot can make decision depending upon, the rules set, right? Depending upon the rules set. So whatever rules that you have set across, of course, he's going to go ahead and, make decisions based on that, right? Nowadays, speaking about UiPath, our tool is much more, stronger, much more evolved, where you can always, add AI ML skills, where, it can always take decision on its own without even being, giving some rules to kind of process. And of course, it can work with, any existing application, because as we all know now that we will be interacting with the software. It's not like we need to install anything extra for that software to work. We are just sitting on top of the application and then interacting with the application, which means you can always work on the browsers, you can always work on Windows-based applications, you can always work on terminal applications. So you can work, with the seamlessly, with the any existing applications that you have, right? You can always work with the database applications, CRM applications, ERP applications, whichever your applications you have, you can all, without any major updates on any of the software, you can always work on them. The only reason is because you're interacting with the software, which means you're sitting on top of the software and then you're interacting the way in which the human would do it, right? So this is some of the pointers which says what can an automation or what can an RPA do for you, right? Outcome wise, of course, the customer experiences increases a lot, right? I'm not sure whether you would understand the customer experiences over here, but let me throw some examples over here, right? So nowadays, we have a lot of companies, a lot of organizations come in, and we use a lot of services from them, right? I don't want to name them, but yes, we use a lot of services, from many of the companies. And let's say, for example, you have some questions, you have some queries, so you always reach back to the customer support team, right? Either you reach back, through email or through a phone call. And then, of course, I at least have gone through the pain where it has taken at least 2-3 days for me, or even a week for me to get this thing done, right? So, for example, if any one of you have an experience of applying for a home loan, then you would understand how much time does it take for a process to get completed, right? Now the only reason why it takes a lot of time for your queries to get processed is because there is high chances that it's been still done through a human intervention, right? Because a human has to pull records, see everything, then collate everything, then read the data, and then come to a conclusion accordingly. Now just imagine what if we had a RPA or a software robots over there. So the moment your request comes in, the software robots is going to do the same thing, as in pull records from different database, collect everything into one, analyze your report, and then send the feedback, or then you're sent the answers regarding their queries, right? That is one of the very important factors spread across all the verticals of the industries, which says improving the customer experiences, right? This is very important, right? And of course, this point which I've been speaking for a very long time, which says increasing the employee engagement and satisfaction, right? If your employee is not happy, right, then your organization or your job is not moving forward. As simple as that, right? Which means a person who is doing the job, if he's not happy doing the job, then of course he's not going to give his full outcome. And of course, if the employer is not going to give his full outcome, which means the job is not completely done, or the job is not done 100%, right? And why would an employee would not give the 100%? Reason: he is involved in such tedious tasks which he does not enjoy doing it. But if you remove those jobs and give it to the software robot, then he does not bother about those tedious repetitive jobs, and he will focus on his core job, and then he will proceed forward, right? Of course, reduce compliance cost, risk. Of course, the risk is reduced because your bots are taking care of all the requests that comes in. So this would be some of the outcomes when you go ahead and implement RPA into your teams. Right? Now, so what can a software robots do, right? Let's say, for example, you have a software robot already present on your machine. Now you want to look at what can a software robot do. So some of the examples over here, which says login into any applications, right? Login into any application, which basically means that you can say, for example, you want to log in into your portal, your college portal, and in order to log in into your college portal, you would need your ID and your password. Your software robots can do it on behalf of you, which means you don't have to do it. You just run the button, and the software robot will enter your email address, will enter your password, and then it will click on login, right? And of course, after that, also a lot of things can be automated, but this is an example which says login into any application, right? Moving files and folders, right? So from one section to another section, if you want to move files and folders, the software robot can always go ahead and do that. Reading and writing data into databases, not only databases, other sources also. The software robots can fetch data, it can write data, it can even update data, and it can even delete data also, right? And of course, the very important is scraping data, right? So you can scrape the entire website, you can scrape an entire application, and then you can save the data, right? Nowadays, it's very important, that we need to scrape the data from a source, because we need to make calculations on that data. And in order to scrape the data, we can always make use of an RPA bots or a software robots, which will allow us to go ahead and scrape the data for us, right? Of course, you can connect through APIs. So as I said, our tools are very smart, not only interacting with the user interfaces, but if you have the API connection between two applications, then you can always connect via APIs also, right? And as I said earlier, in respect to scraping means scraping the entire data. If not, then you can always scrape, some of the data, or a parts of a data that can also be done. So you can scrape data from documents, PDF files, emails, forms, applications, any interface you give it, a bot is able to go ahead and extract data from it, right? You can do email automations, which means you can send emails from the software robots. Your software robots can even send attachments. It can even download attachments. After downloading it, it can open the attachment, read data from the attachments, and then process. So those things can also be a part of it, right? And of course, it can make calculations, because we will be the person who will be writing the logic behind it, and whatever logic or the steps to be written, depending upon that, he'll be able to go ahead and make calculations for it. Now comes a very important part, or a very important a slide, which speaks about across the verticals or across the domains in the industry, where would you see automation coming in, right? If you are not aware of such industries, do not bother. I'll introduce them to you, and then we can look at what are all the automations that happen across them, right? There you go. So when you join any of the organization, or when you look at any of the organization, right? Say for example, let's look at UiPath itself, right? As an organization, over here we have different departments, right, within our organization, right? Of course, the very famous, everybody knows, is the HR, department. So you would also, would be aware of it, that we have HR as a department. Apart from HR, we have finance, supply chain, IT, customer service, product service, and then legals and marketing. So a lot of departments or domains are spread across an organization. And if you look at each one of the organizations, or each one of the departments inside an organization, you can see that there is a lot of scope for automation. There is a lot of scope for automations. Now, what I'm trying to say over here is, in every department, there are different people working across it. And when you look at the jobs that they do, most of the jobs, or ideally majority of the jobs, are a kind of repetitive in nature, which means we can go ahead and we can automate them. We can go ahead and we can automate them, right? Now, for example, I'm not sure whether you guys would understand this, but I'm pretty sure you would understand this very well, which is the HR section over here, right? Now, I'll tell you, what we have done across in HR department in UiPath, as in the organization which I work across, right? Of course, HR is the person that you would interact first, if you are applying for a job, right? Let's say, for example, if anyone applies for a job in UiPath, right? So the very first person that interacts with that person is, the HR people itself. So which means your process of interview will get started, right? Series of interview will get started and all those things will happen. And then the day will come when you are finally onboarded and it's your first day at UiPath. So right from the point where your interview gets started until the point you are getting onboarded, in UiPath, things are automated in our HR section. Okay, which means the bot will go ahead and schedule test for you. Any online technical test. So for example, it will send you all the details of regarding that, and then it will look at the different managers, and then it will assign the meetings according to them. And say, for example, everything is done, and when you are on the first day joining as a company, of course, there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, right? Your document has to get verified and all those things. So the moment you upload those documents, the HR people don't, they don't verify it. It's the bot who takes, in charge of it, and then he verifies all your documents, and then it gives the result to us, right? So the entire onboarding process has been automated for us, right? Even the payroll, right? Salary slips and all those things have also been automated for us, right? So this is, with respect to each and every, departments inside an organization, and for all the organizations in each and every department, there is a lot and lot and lot of automations that happens, right? Of course, when you look at, other industries, say for example, finance or, the insurance domain, let's take an example, which I could always relate to is, um, those health insurance requests that come in, right? Say for example, if ideally it should not be the case, but if some of you have been visited the hospitals, if some of your members are ill and they have a health insurance card, then of course it goes to a process of claims, where you have to raise the request as in the TP. The person in charge has to raise the request, for the treatment, and then it goes to the approval to the company, then the money gets allocated and all the paperwork happens, right? Now those things are also being getting automated, which means, personally for me, I have been situations where it took me around 5-6 hours just for my claims to get cleared, and the reason behind that was it was highly manual. Nowadays you can see your claims are processed within hours. The reason is because things have been automated on both the end, in the hospital also and in the insurance domain itself also, right? So because of automation, things move fast and you are able to process a lot of queries in very less time, right? So that is one of the benefits of getting the automation into existence, right? And of course, till now, whatever I have been speaking about, is just examples which is related to the IT industries, or to the entire the industry altogether, right? Now, let me give some examples which you could relate to, right? Which means, being a student, what can I think about RPA use case? What can I go ahead and start automating it? Because ultimately, when you will be building software bots for this hackathon, you would be thinking of all the use cases that you have, and then you will be working on that itself, right? Because we want use cases to come from your end. What is the pain that you have and how are you solving the pain? So those things would happen from your end. But in order to give you an example of how things would work from your end, right? Say for example, if you are familiar, with your college, as in how process happen, maybe you can even go and ask your faculties also. Ideally, students are also aware of it. What happens is, whenever a faculty or a teacher comes for a session, you would always see, right? They would take attendance, right? As usual, they would take attendance, and that's not where it stops, right? Whenever they take attendance in a classroom, that is not, where it gets stops. Through, maybe towards the end of the day, each and every faculty has to go ahead and update the attendance on the college portal, right? If you are aware of it, it's very well. If you are not, then you can always reach back to your faculty and you can ask them, is this what you do, right? So they have to go ahead and then they have to, update the attendance on the college or university portal. So every day, right? Just imagine every day, Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, whatever is it, whatever sessions they take, though they have already taken the attendance, but they have to update it because that's how universities and colleges work. So every day they'll go up, log in into the portal, select the particular classroom, all the students list will come up, and then they'll say present, absent, and so on, and then they close it. Then the second class, third class, fourth class, depending upon how many sessions that they've taken. Now just imagine, or let's put it in this way. Is it a repetitive job? A repetitive basically means you are doing the same job on a daily basis. So the attendance system that I spoke about, is it a repetitive job? Yes or no? Let me know into the chat window. Let me see how many people would address that. You can always put your question on the chat, your answer on the chat window. Right? Now what I see is, a lot of people have said, yes, it's a repetitive task because every day your faculty would do the same thing, which is go to the page, update the attendance, and then move forward. Now, what an RPA can do is, an RPA can go ahead and automate this stuff for the faculties, right? Which means, let's say for example, if the faculty has taken, an attendance, for example, they have taken attendance for 4 lectures or 5 lectures for that particular day, and towards the end of the day, right, which is ideally a time where they would be packing stuff and leaving for the home, because of course, being a student also, you go, you pack the stuff and then you go home. But your educators would spend extra time only for marking the attendance. Now, when the software robot is already deployed into their machine, they can just click a button which says run, and then the software robot will automatically go ahead and mark the attendance until the time the faculty might prepare what has to be done tomorrow, or they can do the packing and be ready. Once the bot is done, then they can leave, or they can go ahead and do the next job that they have. Right? So this is one of the examples which you can relate it to. Now I'll give you one more examples where RPA is very beneficial, where RPA is very important, right? Now, that example would be when there is some workshop or seminar happening in your colleges, right? A seminar or a workshop can happen at any number of time, at any given number of times, right? It could happen multiple times, it could happen only once, or ideally it happens when you are having the college festivals and so on, right? Now let's say for example your college, since you are a part of the community, you are all involved and you have started a seminar. So everything went well, you got a huge number of registration. Let's say for example 1,000 people registered, and all the 1,000 people came in for the sessions, I think the seminar. The seminar started well, all the 1,000 people are attending, and everything went well. Now this seminar concludes. Now comes the very important part, which is issuing the participation certificate, right? Any seminar, any workshop that you attend, it's mandatory to give them a participation certificate, right? Now comes the very important job, and a tedious job, which is creating those 1,000 certificates and sending them on their email addresses. Say, for example, if you are the chosen one, then it's your job to create 1,000 certificates. Or let's say, for example, you get help from few of your friends, but in which ways 3, 4 friends, whomever is it, but you would have to at least create 200, 300 certificates and then send it to their particular email addresses with subject, body, everything, thank you, everything in place. Now just imagine, the number of repetitive jobs, the number of data that you're processing into it. And of course, it's a tedious, boring, repetitive, mundane task. Now, what if I told you that you don't have to do it? The RPA bots can come into picture and they'll help us to go ahead and automate, as in create the certificate and send it to the particular email addresses. Which means when you click, say start, run the software bot, the bot will take the first participant name, write it into the certificate, save the certificate, and then email that certificate to that first participant. Since you will be running it in a loop, then it is going to create the second certificate, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so till the 1,000 certificates. Which means none of you have to go ahead and do the job. You can just simply run the bot, and then you can all go ahead, enjoy your time in the canteen, do some stuff. And then when you come back and then see, all the 1,000 certificates has been processed, which means created and sent to the particular email addresses. And all the 1,000 participants would have received the email participation certificates, which means, when the session completes, you can start your bot, which means till the point the participant, even reaches their home, the certificates will be there on their inboxes, right? So this is, few examples which you can go ahead and always relate it, right? Now, with that being said, now I would request, all the participants over here to, give me a confirmation, which is, have you understood the concept of RPA? Right? Is the concept of RPA clear? As in what RPA is responsible to do, or using RPA, what all we can do? If that is clear, give me a confirmation, yes or no, on the chat window, and then we would proceed further. Right? We have a huge participant here. I would request all of them to give me a confirmation. Right? Or if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat window so that I could address that, and then we'll proceed further. Okay, so I see a lot of confirmations. Thank you so much. And let me see if I have any questions in between. So there's one chat which says, so it is easy for also customer support using RPA. Yes, customer support fields can also make use of RPA and make their life easier. For data entry job, yes, RPA can always be beneficial in a data entry job. So there's a question over here which says, how is the machine supposed to know what data we are requesting? a machine will be able to know, because when we write the code behind it, or when we write the logic behind it, we will tell that, this is the source from where you would pick the data, and then the robots will go to that particular resource and then pick the data and then start working on it. So as I said earlier, right, guys, nothing is magic, nothing is out of the world. Everything is only possible because you will be the person who would be, going ahead and writing the logic behind it, right? So your software robots will be following, the same steps that you would be taking across this, right? Of course, I'll go ahead and show you, one demo of how to do it. But then, as said earlier, your learnings will happen on the UiPath Academy portal, and from there itself, you will learn the entire course that we have over there. Right. So that question over here, which says, what is the difference between a robot and a bot? There is no such differences, right? In the software world, instead of calling it as a robot, we call it as a bot. But ultimately, it's the same. When we say robot, when we say bot, there is no difference. All of both the notations are same itself. There's a question which says, are we allowed to make bots and customer support? Yes, of course, you can go ahead and make the bots and customer supports. We are not bounding you to any constraint. Feel free to use any use case and then start building the bot, right? We will not be restricting you. We will not be, limiting you. Whatever field you want to choose, please go ahead and then you can make, the software robots for it. Okay, cool. Now, let's proceed further now. Sorry. So ideally, all of all of you should have the student guide available with you. Say, for example, if you do not have the student guide available with you, then I'll again go ahead and paste the link for the student guide in the chat window. Please advise all your friends to go ahead and use this particular student guide only, because whatever program that we are having, each and everything is mentioned in this student guide that is, there on the chat window for you, right? So I'll just go ahead and walk you through the student guide again. If in case some of you are still facing any difficulties, then I would address all of you over there, and then we will go ahead and proceed further accordingly. Right? So there you go. This is the student guide. Please make sure you download it and keep it into your machine or local drive, whichever is it, because you need to refer to it every time, when you are working with it, right? So that's the event, the hackathon that we are, going ahead and doing it over here. And so if you look at, the journey starts from user register, your student registration, which ideally, of course, all of you would have done that. So your registration is completed. Then the very next step would be, downloading the studio, right? I think, of course, you would need a software to build the bot. So this is where from you will be downloading the studio. Of course, each and every step is mentioned in the document. Do not bother. I'll go towards all of them. And then the next thing is getting enrolled into the UiPath Academy, because this is the place from where your rest of the learning will happen, right? Because you need to learn in order to, go ahead and make the bots. Sorry. There you go. So you will log in into the UiPath Academy, and then you will go ahead and complete this particular course, which is RPA Citizen Developer Foundation. And once you complete that, Then of course you will receive a diploma completion certificate from the platform itself, which means the moment you complete the entire course, automatically the certificate will get generated and you can download the certificate from there. And then of course we have the industry expert session, which is what currently we are doing it over here. And once we complete the industry expert session, which is today's session, and then from tomorrow you can start go ahead and start making the 24 hours board session that we have, right? So this is the time period from where your entire board journey will begin. So you will start building your entire board journey, after we complete the industry sessions that we have. Then of course you complete your board building sessions, then you go ahead, submit the project. Once you submit the project, a set of evaluation will happen, and then the top 15 teams will be selected, and then they will be doing a presentation for us, and then from them the winners will be selected, and then we'll be announcing the winners for them, right? So this step is very important, people. Please make sure that you acquire each steps, or download the document very well and refer to the steps in a correct way. Now let's go with the second step over here, which is downloading the Academic Alliance edition, right? So this is the website from where you will go ahead and you will download the Academic Alliance edition from here, right? Because as I said, you would need a software to work across. So this is the link to download the software, and this is particularly this link over here, right, which says download the Academic Alliance edition. So you'll enter your first name, your last name, your email addresses. Of course, all of you are a student over here, so you will select student. The country, ideally, yes, we all are from India. Whichever states you belong to, please go ahead and select that state. And then over here, you need to select the institution, right? You need to select the institution, which says, what is the institution name. So ideally, to avoid any confusion, if you look over here, the institution name that you need to select is India ICT Academy, right? You need to select India ICT Academy from here. So just go click here and then just go ahead and search for India ICT Academy. There you go. You find India ICT Academy, just click on India ICT Academy, right? So this is very important. You need to tag India ICT Academy as an organization name over here, and then fill the rest of the details over here, and then just click on request now. The moment you click on request now, on the email addresses that you have provided, you will get a license key, and then you will also get a link from where you can download the setup. And also there would be a PDF file link which will say how to install the software. So the link to the software, the license key, and the document to install the software, everything will be there on the mail. Read the document very well, and then install the software with the license key accordingly very well. Because you will need the software to start building your boards, right? That's very important. Once your license or once your setup of the studio is completed, I mean, once you downloaded the entire UiPath Studio X platform, then you can go ahead and then you can start learning this on the UiPath Academy, which is the RPA Developer Foundation course, right? Or the Citizen Developer Foundation course, right? So you'll go to the academy.com. So I'll just open my academy.com over here. So just go to UiPath, academy.uipath.com. If you are first, or this is your first time, then please go ahead, register yourself. Once you click on register, then you log in, and then click on learning by role. And then you would see a lot of learning by roles over here, but you will be learning only this section, which is RPA Citizen Developer Foundation, right? It's roughly around 16 hours of course. So you will be learning only this, right? So once you go ahead, then you can always expand on this. And then there would be a lot of courses, see over here. So getting started with Studio X, User Interface, so 1, 2, 3, lot of courses. Complete all of them. And the moment you complete all of them, you will get the diploma of completion, right? See, there you go. So you can download the diploma of completion. That will be a proof that you have completed the entire training on the Studio X platform. So I'll repeat again, the course is RPA Citizen Developer Foundation. And this is also same which is mentioned over here, right? So, any questions till now? Let me know into the chat window. You can't be making a team. It's a single person entry. So individually, you'll have to go ahead and start making bots. So it's an individual person who would be contributing. It's not a hackathon for group. It's a hackathon for individual people. So you are the only single person who will be submitting your entries. You can't pair it with other person. Is it mandatory? Of course, it's mandatory, right? Without completing the course, then you can't proceed further. So it is mandatory to go ahead and complete the course. No, it would not be a problem. If you have already selected your college name, it's okay. But ideally, some of the college name will not appear. That's the reason we said select ICT Academy. So you can always proceed further with your college name also. But then if not, then please go ahead and select ICT Academy itself. Right now, how would you show your completion certificate? Right, that's also very important. Once you complete the course, as I said, of course you will get the diplomas down on your inbox also, and also you can download it from the UiPath Academy itself. Once that is completed, as in once you get the diploma, all of you need to go ahead and share it on LinkedIn. All of you need to go ahead and share it on LinkedIn, right? So I'm assuming all of you will have an account on LinkedIn. If not, please go ahead, create an account on LinkedIn. And then once you upload the certificate, create a post, and then, once you add that certificate on that post, then you need to, use those tags and hashtags, right? So hashtag hackathon 2022, ICT Academy, UiPath, then UiPath Academic Alliances, then UiPath Citizen Developers, and so on. And then you can even tag us so that we could also look at your certificates and then evaluate, right? Right. Ideally, this is how a LinkedIn look like. That's my profile. You can always tag me in your certificate, which will help us to get down to your certificate. So you will go ahead and then you will create a post, add the certificate, all the following tags which I've said. So all those tags should be added, and then you would be uploading your certificate on the LinkedIn as a post itself. Yeah. So that was it. So remember, it's hashtag hackathon 2022 ICT Academy India, UiPath, hashtag UiPath Academic Alliances, hashtag UiPath Citizen Developers, and then feel free to tag us. Right? Okay. So there's a question which says, RPA start date and end date. So ideally, you can put any end date and start date if you need, but if you want to be more precise, then you can put today's date and a weekday after it also. No, it does not matter. Right. I'll pass the link of this document again so that people can refer to it. There you go. That's the student guide again. Yeah. Okay, done. So we're done with step 2, which is going to UiPath Academy and then completing the course and then sharing the certificate on a LinkedIn platform. Then of course the hackathon event that we are having, which is happening now. So session 1, session 2. Session 1 is happening now. Session 2 would happen after the lunch break, which is 2 p.m. IST timing. And then the bot building sessions happens over here. Right. That is starting tomorrow. Each one of you would go ahead and start building the bots over here. Right. So of course registration is mandatory, right? Participation submissions can only be done at an individual level. No teams are allowed. as I said earlier, it's a individual event, so you would only be there in the event. There would be no teams allowed in the events, and all the use case or the projects that you do, it should at least have three of these following automation use cases, right? Of course, till now, if you haven't started learning on UiPath Academy, you will not know what are these. So do not bother about it now. I would explain them what are these and how to work with them. But this is what you have to do. And then, of course, you'll have to use the academic alliance edition of the software only, and you work only on Studio X. That's it. You can submit n number of projects, right, for your submission. So it's not mandatory that you will only have to build one project and submit it. You can go ahead and build n number of use cases. But as I said, your use case should be very well defined. It should not be as simple, so that it gets eliminated directly. And it should involve, at least three of these use cases that should happen. I'll explain more about them later on. And then, your projects or use case, whatever you're building, it should be shared, in a PowerPoint presentation, right? Formats will be shared to you. So you will have to, use those guidelines, and then you'll have to, get it completed over here, right? So if you look at, what are you supposed to do as a PPT submission guideline? So over here, you can only use 2 slides for each bot idea. Say, for example, you're building, 2 use cases, as in 2 projects. So for one project, 2 slides, another project, 2 slides, which means one project, it's only 2 slides, not more than 2 slides. Right? What will be there in these 2 slides? Your project name, instruction about what is your project, in max 500 words, and then what is the idea of your projects, description of the problem that you are solving, as in what was the problem, right? Or what does your project tackle, as in what was the pain point, right? Which means this was the pain, or this was, things, or this is the problem, and we're trying to solve those problems over here. Right. And of course, whom is the user you're targeting to, whom do you want to reach out to, and all those things should happen over here. And then as who will be benefited, as in it is an individual people who will be benefited, or the entire organization would get benefited from it, right? Now, say for example, if I speak about, the attendance system that you were speaking about, it's basically, the individual who's getting benefited, right? It's the faculty only is getting benefited, right? So for that reason, it would be individual. Or if you're thinking about, other use cases, then it would be an organization on the whole who is getting benefited from what you have built. So those things has to be mentioned over here. And then of course, what is the core technology, each should I can explain them in max to 50 words, right? What would be the judging criteria? I mean, the judging panel, including me and the other people, how would we be judging your, bots that you have built? Of course, you would be scored out of 100. That's the score points that we have. You will be scored, the 25 points would be given for the creativity and the innovation, as in the idea that you're taking, a real-time use case that you're taking, right? This is where a majority of the points would define across, right? So choose a topic, choose, an idea, which is a real-time scenario, right? So do not choose, any small topics, which would not be, an ideally a real-world scenario to work across, right? So for this, you would be given a score from 25. And then, the second is purpose or practicality. What is the purpose of this? How practicality it is to implement? And then use case relevances, whether it is, it can be scaled for a larger community, or if it has some potential work in the future. So those things can also be, or taken factor across. Complexity, again, minimum 3, or how many number of automation scenarios you have taken care of. So those things would be added. And the best time of use, right? So as in how many number of use cases that you have built across. So you also judged across on that. So this is how ideally it should work. Your template would be, introduction about your project, description about your project. So your 500 and all those things would be written over here. right? So those things again will come over here. So we have added 3 templates over here, assuming you would build 3, so you can do whatever you want. So this is how it should look like, what technologies that you're using. So out of these, whatever you have used, apart from this, if you use anything, you can also go ahead and add those. So these templates would be given to you. You can always, get it from your educators if you don't have access to it. And there you go, some of the important pointers, right? So please follow, the document very well. The templates also are given over here, so you can download this template from here itself, right? And you have to make sure that whatever you're submitting, it has to be in a PDF format. You see this? It has to be in a PDF format. Any submission which is, PPT format, Word document, or other format will not be accepted, so it will be discarded right away. So the template, once you save it into a PDF format and then upload it, into the portal, right? Where will you upload it? You will upload it over here. So this is the form that you will be filling across, and once you fill in this form, then you can go ahead and then you can add your submissions over here. So you see your presentation link. So you upload it into your drive, with the public access, with whatever is it, and then click here, submit it here, and then we will go to that particular presentation, and then we'll start scoring your details over there. Clear? So that was all about the event people. And if any one of you have any questions, then please go ahead and put it in the chat window right away. So let me see if I have any questions here. Is it mandatory to get the diploma certificate? Of course, yes, people. It's mandatory. It's mandatory to get the certificates, and it's also mandatory to upload that certificate on the LinkedIn platform. Without which your submissions would not be considered. Then you would be nullifying it, and then we would not be proceeding with your submissions, right? So these tags and all that you put, if you tag me and my team and all those things, whatever you do, that makes sure that we receive your certificate on LinkedIn, we see it, and then we add it to your list saying that step 1 done, and then we look at your boards, right? It's very important to complete this. It's important. There's a question here. Is it important to provide starting and end date of the RPA courses? You can put any date for the start date and the end date. If you are having confusion, then you can put today's date as the starting date, and then you can put a week after as the end date also. Template is already shared, in the chat, people. So, sorry. I'll again add it into the chat window. There you go. So all of you can go ahead and download it from here. So you can download it from here. So this is basically the entire student guide. And in the student guide, you will find the template, the links to submit, the links to download the studio. So you have the link to download the UiPath Studio. There you go, the studio. And then here is the link for the academy, and here is the link for the RPA Citizen Developer course that you need to complete. So download this document and keep it in handy, because each and every link, each and every information is mentioned inside this document itself. Right? And any other questions? There's a question here which says, if I need to develop a bot for an organization and I don't have a software access to it, then you can create your own demo, on access to it. But ultimately, we want, what idea is it, and how would, what technology are you using, and how are you going to go ahead and implement it over there, right? Course completion is very important, people. It's altogether a 15 hours of course. So of course it can be easily achievable to complete it. So complete that, and then your bot submissions will be started. So I would request all of you again, please go ahead and download this student guide, which is shared, on the chat window. And what you see on my screen is I'm talking about that particular student guide, because this is very important, because I'm repeating again, all the steps that is needed is mentioned over here. All the steps that is needed is mentioned here in this document itself. Okay, so we're almost halfway through the first session that we have over here. Now let's go ahead and let's quickly take a break now, and post that break, then we'll start with UiPath, and maybe I'll show you, some of the interfaces, some of problems, use case, and then you would get a confidence how to work with the tool, right? So the timer is there in front of the screen. So please go ahead, take your breaks, and then we will proceed further. Please make sure you come back after the 15 minutes. Okay, so I hope everyone is back to your seat, and shall we proceed further? Okay, thank you so much for the confirmation, and let's move ahead. Awesome. So let's move ahead and let's look at the UI part now, right? So of course, till now we were only looking at what RPA is and what can an RPA do. Now let's understand how and where does UI part comes into picture, right? Now RPA is a technology, or let me put it in this way: RPA is a concept which says, when you use RPA, automation or such things can happen. Now UiPath is basically a solution provider for RPA, which means UiPath will help you to achieve your RPA goals that you have, which means using UiPath you can go ahead and build automations for the processes that you have, right? So UiPath as an organization, we are the leader in the RPA space. And not only in the RPA space, we have expanded our portfolio, very big now. And that's the reason why we are called as the hyper automation platform, because we have, different phases in the, automation world. And for each and every phases, we have, a lot of products available, right? So we have automation hub, process mining, task capture, task mining, automation hubs, and few more, right? And today in this sense, the automation or the hackathon that you are uh, working across, you would be using Studio X as the product, and using only this product you will go ahead and build your automation. So as you can see, this is the build phase of the automation, right? Which basically says, using these products you can go ahead and build automation solutions, right? And out of these three products, we will be using Studio X, because Studio X is a citizen development tool where it does not require a lot of a programming language, a lot of IT knowledge. Each anyone can go ahead and do some basic learning, and then can start building the bot, right? But of course, you should have the zeal to work on the tool, and then proceed further, right? Now Studio X as a platform, it's very simple to use, it's very user interface, the user interface is very friendly and easy to use. And by mean which I say it's very easy and friendly to use is because we have people in varying ages who have used Studio X, and then they have built the bot, right? By that I mean we have kids, right? Not students, kids, who are in the range of 10, 12, 13, and so on. These people, these kids have also used Studio X, and they have built automations for themselves. Of course, people like you are the future workforce. You can always use this. We have even senior citizens, right? Maybe parent or grandparents for some of you, who have used Studio X, and then they have build automations for their personal life, right? For their personal life itself, right? Now, of course, these tools are very much used in this professional world, but you can always go ahead and use automations in your own personal world also, not in the professional world, but also in your personal space, in your personal world also, right? Now I would name some examples where I am personally using automations in my day-to-day life, right? Of course, professionally, in my work environment, I'm using a lot of automations which helps me to get my job done. But also in my personal space also, there are a lot of bots which are which I've created, and I run them for me to get my load come to get the load reduced on that. An example for that I always do is I have created and scheduled a bot, and that bot is basically responsible to pay my bills. So that's what the bot called, pay my bills, right? So every month on a particular date, I pay the electricity bill, and the phone bill, and the other bills that comes into picture. And then I don't have to do it manually, right? Earlier, when I was not introduced to automation, I used to do it manually. But now the bot goes ahead, enters the consumer numbers, the billing address, and each and everything, and then it pays the bills for me, the electricity bill, the rest of the bills that I have, right? So it's a repetitive task, ideally monthly basis task, but still I have make sure that the bot does it, right? And of course, given the point, we might tend to forget to go ahead and build the bot on a particular date. But since I have scheduled the bot, so the bot never fails to do that, provided my machine is on with the internet connection, so that things can start running on that process, right? So of course you can always think in your personal space also, what else would you like to automate? But there are just go ahead, just look at there are a lot of use case around present everywhere. And with that, we in UiPath, we have a motto which says a robot for every person. And this is the motto that our founder, our co-founder, CEO, and all started with. And each one of us are into this motto which says a robot for every person. Right? If you imagine, if you remember, when Bill Gates started, Microsoft, he had a vision which says a PC for every home, a PC at every home. And if you look today, more or less that vision is completely true, right? At least in our house, we have one Windows machine, right? And that is also what we want to achieve over here, which is a robot for every person, which means that each one of us should make use of the software world, which means the digital assistant, the software robot, and which will help us to get our job done, right? So with that vision, with that motto we have, so Studio X is one of the platform that will help us to get our job done very well, right? Because Studio X, as I said earlier, is a very simple to use interface, which basically means that everybody can go ahead and start automating it. So it's not like a person who is technically strong, who is into the IT industry, who knows programming very well, he or she will be the person who will be using it. No, Studio X can be used by any person, and then they can start developing the bot from there, right? So being a citizen developer, there is no coding experience required. All you have to have is an analytical thinking, because that will help you to proceed further, right? And then of course Excel and all those things can also be done using the UiPath Studio X that we have, right? Now let's look at why are we choosing Studio X. One of the reason is because it's a very easy to use interface, right? And it does not involve complexity. And since most of you would also be learning RP and UiPath for the very first time, that is the reason why we are going ahead, and then we are starting ahead with the Studio X platform. Now it's a generic slide, by the way. Now, if you look at the right hand side of this slide, you see a pie diagram over there, right? And on the pie diagram, you see there are two colors which represents number, which says 63% and which says 37%, right? Now, the 63%, what does it say? It says, first let me put it in this way. The pie chart completely represents the daily task that you do, right? Say for example, today, you started your job, and the whole day that you'll be doing a job, that is the 100% that you'll do. 63% of that you will spend time on complex decision, complex tasks, and then the 37% of the time you spend on those repetitive, mundane, and boring tasks. Now, what we want to achieve is, or any person who utilizes this RPA skills, or utilizes UiPath products, we want them to get rid of those 37%, which means we want them to free. We want them to be free. So those 37% of the time that you spend on those repetitive, mundane tasks, that can be taken care by the software robots, the digital robots, or the bots over there, right? Which means your core job, that is, solving those complex problems, remains there, but the rest of the jobs, you don't have to bother about it, because the software robots can go ahead and then, he can do that over there. Right. Now, how do you identify your task for an automation? Right. So below are, some of the examples that I have stated down, which says, these are the tasks that can be, looking across or taken care for, the automation, right? Now, if you look at the very first pointer, it says, extracting data from an internal desktop applications, or, add content into a document, or, an Excel report file, right? For example, if you see, it says, you can extract data, from many files from a report and then add them to a CRM application, right? For example, you have a data, or you have a report, or a document, or any other application where your data is presented. You will start taking data from that application, and then you want to enter it into some other applications that you have, some other CRM applications that you have. In that case, of course, your robot is a very good option. RPA is a very good option, because it's a a repetitive task, which is the source of that data is defined, which means from this source only you will pick up the data. Whatever the data you pick up, the same data you are going to go ahead and add it into the application. Then why not use RPA in that field? Because it's repetitive. Yes. It deals with the data, high amount of data. Yes, because there might be millions of data that you need to extract and then enter into the CRM application. Of course, yes, that can be also be done. So yes, it's a good fit for an automation, and then you can go ahead and choose that automation moving forward. The second pointer, it says you can download attachments from different emails, or you can compose the messages with the attachment. So email automations can also be done, right? So just imagine, right, the example which I said you earlier, right, where you have to send thousands of certificates because you have 1,000 participants. Why do it manually? Let the bot do it. The bot will send the data into all of them. Now, given that scenario that you have, so what we can achieve over there is, let's say, for example, all the participant data is there in the Excel file. So, somebody has to maintain that data. And then depending upon that data itself, you have to send the certificates to them. So the bot will pick up the very first line, the very first record from the data. It will put it into the certificate. It will save the certificate, create and save the certificate, and then the email automation bots will pick up the certificate, add it as an attachment, subject, body, whatever is there, we will write it, and then we'll send the certificate to the first participant, then the second participant, and third, and so on, right? So, what I'm trying to achieve over here is, or what I'm trying to tell you is that, whichever use case that you take, please make sure that that use case is a good fit for an automation, right? That use case is a good fit for an automation, which means it's not something which is done only once and then you cannot use it forward ahead. Then that's not, a good fit for an automation, because ideally, when organizations build automation, they would spend money on building the organization or the automations. And when they spend money and then they realize that, this automation, we are only using it once, and then in future there is no use for it, then they have, practically, uh, whatever money they have spent is of, a waste for them. They haven't gotten any benefit for them, right? So the certificate example that I said is basically, which would keep on repeating in the sense, because you have already sent it for the 1,000 participants, which is already, repeating in nature only. But say, for example, in future, if after a month or so, again, then there is a participation, there's a workshop or seminar happening, the bots remain the same, the data in the Excel file is same, only the, participant name and all will change, then the same thing will happen again. The certificate that you have, just, replace the template of the certificate with the new template, and then, the program remains the same. There is no changes in the program, because the bot picks up the data from the Excel file, put it into the, write it into the certificate, save it, and then send it to the participants. So that's repetitive in nature, right? Of course, you're dealing with a huge amount of data. So these all factors are important to understand why or when should I, select a process for an automation. It's not like something, you see it and then you automate it. No, those things, of course, you would not be scored very well for that bots that you have built it, right? So you look at those, judging criteria. Please look at, individual pointers and then work accordingly over there. Clear? Any questions? Anyone over here? Before we move forward, any questions over here? Okay, let me see, what do we have over here? Can we use Studio on Mac? No, people. Studio is Windows dependent, so the Studio X would be there on Windows itself. So if we are clear on that, then please go ahead, give me a confirmation, give me a thumbs up on the chat window so that we can proceed further, and I'll let you know how to go ahead and build a simple bot, right? If you want, you can always please go ahead, download the UiPath Academic Alliance of the Studio. I'm assuming most of you would have downloaded the software. And after you install the software, this is what your software would look like. So if you have already done that, then you can always, open it up. And after I'm done, you can practice this example, which would give you an idea how simple is it to work across. Now, the file which you install were the very first time, right? The setup file which you install, actually it has, multiple versions of Studio installed into it together. I think Studio is also there. Studio X is also there, right? If you look at my screen over here, it clearly says Studio X, right? Even on the bottom also it says over here, Studio X itself, right? So, and also the color interface is also a little different. Ideally, if you're not able to see this Studio X, do not worry. You just need to change the profile of it, right? You just need to go ahead and change the profile of it. So I'll tell you how do we go ahead and how do we, change the profile of the platform, so that if in case you are not in Studio X, then how do you go ahead and get into the Studio X from there? So what you need to do is you need to go ahead and click on settings, and then from there click on licenses and profile, and from there click on view or change profile, right? See, Studio and Studio X. Then go ahead and then click on Studio X from there. The moment you click on Studio X, it's going to reboot, not the system reboots, the UiPath Studio reboots, and then the Studio X will get opened in front of you. Right? I'll repeat the steps again on the screen. So ideally, from the start menu, you will go ahead and start the UiPath Studio once it's installed. Once the installation is completed, then you will click on settings, open it. Ideally, it will be in the start menu. Go to settings, then licenses and profile, then click on view or change profile, and then from here, click on Studio X, right? I'll just mark it over here so that you can remember it. Please make a note of it. From there, we go here, and from here, you go and click on this. And from here, you go and click on Studio X. I leave this open for a minute so that you guys can copy these steps, and then I'll erase the drawing and then we proceed forward. Okay. Also in the UiPath Academy, when you go ahead and learn over there also, they will tell you how to change your profile to Studio X. Okay, done people? Perfect. Let me clear the drawing and then we'll proceed forward. So that's what a studio looks like. Studio X, sorry, that's what a Studio X interface look like. Now let me go ahead and quickly go ahead and change it. Change in the sense, let's start building the bots, right? So whenever you want to start building a bot, you'll go ahead and click here. It says under new project, click on blank task. Under new project, click on blank task. Now over here, you need to go ahead and give a process name, as in the name of the project, the location where you want to save the project, and then the description, what is this all about. But before that, let me quickly go ahead and share it to you as in what exactly we are going to do it and exactly what are we going to go ahead and what exactly we are going to build it from there, right? So we are going to go ahead and work on our website, and the website name is called as rpachallenge.com. There you go. So this is an example which I'm going to show you, right? As in how you can go ahead and build automation, and this is a very good use case because when you look at this example, it would be a kind of an eye opener for you, because you would have seen this earlier, but then you would have not thought it could be automated, and when you see the automation running in action, then you would be amazed to see that what is the power of automation altogether over here. So the moment the page loads, you can see there is some text fields over here, phone number, address, company name, first name, last name, email, role in the company, and so on, which basically means you would have to go ahead and start entering data over here, as in the first name, the last name, company name, and so on. But it's a challenge over here. That means you need to click on start first, and then you will go ahead and enter the data over here. So what as a human, what I need to do is I need to click on start, but ideally bot should also go ahead and click on start to proceed further. So I'll go ahead, click on start. There you go. See, you see round one. In this way, there are multiple rounds over here. So there are 10 rounds over here. So currently what I'm doing is I'm not going to enter anything over here. I'll just click on submit. You see round two. I'll also click on submit. There you go. Submit, submit, submit. See round 7. This is round 8, round 9, round 10, and it's complete. See, there you go. So of course I scored 0 because I haven't entered anything as of now, and it took me 23 seconds to just click on submit button. And that is the reason why it is called as a challenge, because after once you complete it last, you will see that you will get a score over here. Here. Now let's restart this page again. There you go. Now the next question is, what should I enter it over here? The next question is, what should I go ahead and what should I enter it over here? Which means the data present in the Excel will get entered over here. Now the question is, how and where did Excel came into existence, right? So you can see, just above the download Excel button, you can see there is a download Excel button over here. So when you click on the download Excel, the Excel file will be downloaded into your machine. When you click on the download Excel, the Excel file will be downloaded into your machine. See, I'm just downloading it into the desktop and the name of the file is challenge. Okay. I'll save this. So let me open this Excel file. Let's wait for the Excel file to get open up and then we can start getting the data. Right. Let me just zoom in for you so that everybody can see it clearly. There you go. Right. See, as you can see over here, so we have 10 records of data, ideally 11 records. One of the reasons is because the first record is the column name. So my actual data starts from here, which is John until Lara, which is 2 to 11, which means I have 10 records, which means this entire row will go in round 1, this will go in round 2, this will go in round 3, round 4, and so on and so on. Right? So John over here, I'll copy it, I'll start it. So this is John over here. So I'll copy John and then I'll very first name, I'll enter it inside the first name. Then it is Smith is the last name. Then I'll copy it. Then I'll paste it in the last name. Then the company name is IT Solution. IT Solution company name. Therefore, I'll paste it in the company name. Then what is the role? The role is an analyst. So I'll copy it. Where is the role? Here is the role. I'll paste it over here. Then address. There you go. Here I keep the address. Then comes the email address. So I'll go ahead. I'll add the email address over here. And then the phone number, I'll go ahead and the phone number. Round 1 is done. I'll click on submit. Then again, round 2, again copy this and paste it and go on and so on. Right? Now, let me put a question to all of you over here. Do you feel the need to automate this process? Yes or no? Let me also see the response. Do you feel the need to automate this process? Right. I see few of the yeses. What about the rest of the people? Don't you feel that this should be automated? Right, of course you feel like, right, this should be automated. And as I said earlier, this is just for an example that we have given to you, and this is the reason why you have only 10 records of data, because this is just an example and we just want you to get started with automation, and that is the reason only we have kept 10 records of data. Now just imagine at a organization or at an industry level. What would they do is they would be working with millions and millions of records of data. Do you agree with me? Yes or no? Big organizations, big companies, they would be working with millions of records of data. Yes or no? Let me see how many people respond to this question. Correct? And then all these millions of records of data, that they would have to do it, or they would have to process it manually. So just imagine the amount of time that they would be taking, the amount of time that they would be taking in order to complete this process. And then just imagine, what if we go ahead and we implement RPA solutions in it? And then we can all confirm, and then we can say that the process that was taking them huge amount of time, now it will be done at a very, 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 very less time. So this is what basically is the power of automation, right? Of course, we are just starting ahead, which means most of you are just starting ahead with the automation world. But then whatever you have seen so far, or whatever you have learned so far, is just the very, very basic, or the stepping stone, for it to do it, right? But now, since you will be learning the skills of RPA, then moving forward, you can see there are multiple use case, multiple scenarios from where you can go ahead and then you can start automating the process, right? So I'll just repeat it again. This is just only for the practical purpose, as in we are starting it. We only have 10 records of data. Some people might also think 10 records of data, why you need to go ahead and build an automation, which is absolutely true. But what we're doing is we're starting with the building blocks, so that when then you'll have to scale it and imagine it. Then you have to scale it, and then you have to go ahead and then you'll have to imagine it, say this is how actually it is being done. Yeah, and there is a lot of use cases. So just look around, right? Ideally, for the topics of the hackathon, of course, you can always look around, what all topics you have. You can always look around in your own campus also. There are various departments inside your, university, inside your colleges. Just look out for, multiple use cases for them. And then you can try to even automate that processes from them, for them also, right? Not only you are participating in the hackathon, but if it is successful, then you will go ahead and build a solution for them, and then your faculties all will be praising you because you have removed those manual dependencies that was there, and then they will be happy to use the bot that is built, right? So look out for multiple use cases, multiple scenarios, whether it's repetitive in nature, whether it's data driven, and all those things, and whether it's a good fit for an automation. If those things falls in place, then please go ahead and then start automating the process for the same, right? So can we proceed further, people? Give me a confirmation. Can we proceed further and see how to build that bot? Right. And the very important question is, do you feel excited about this subject, about this topic? That's very important. Right. Because ultimately what is happening is, it's ultimately opening, let me put some, filmy dialogues. It's ultimately opening, some new dimension now, which is, what is this now that we haven't explored till date, right? Which was, you would also have done some manual job. Now you would also be thinking, I will automate it, moving forward. For the RPA start date and end date, people, you can put any end date that you want. Start date would be today, or if you started yesterday, then you can put the start date yesterday also. but the end date is you can put any end date you want, or a week after or a year after, whichever you feel comfortable. So please go ahead and put the date for that. Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's build the bot, people. So you need to go ahead on the project. You need to click on the new blank task. There you go. That's how you go ahead. And then over here, you need to give a project name. As in, what is the process name that you have? What is the process name that you have? The interface that you would be using is this interface where it's over here. For me, it's on the other side. Nothing to worry about. Now let's go ahead. Let's give a process name. Ideally, I'll give the process name as the website name itself. So I'll say, it is called as RPA challenge. There you go. Wherever you want to save it, D drive, E drive, please choose that location. Description. So over here, what am I doing is, completing the RPA challenge. And then I'll go ahead and then I'll click on create. Project already exists. Okay, so let me go ahead and choose another location. RPA challenge. There you go. Let me choose some other directory so that it does not bother me. Done. Description. Completing the RPA challenge, and then let's click on create to get started. Right. So if you're using it for the first time, then of course it's going to take some time to load. Let it be. Do not bother about it. There you go. So let's get started. So ideally what you need to do is you need to figure out what are the steps that you need to follow, right? So what is the very first step that you're going to do is you're going to open up the browser, right? Because the moment you open up the browser, you have to enter this website called as RPA challenge, and then only this page comes up. So the bot also has to do the same thing, right? So the bot also has to go ahead and do the same thing itself. So in order to do that, what you need to do is from the left hand side of the screen, right? So I'll tell you what basically parts of the screen we have. So we have the left hand side of the screen, and then we have the middle part of the screen, right? Middle part of the screen is where all the magic happens, where you will write all the codes over here, right? Middle part of the screen is where you will write all the codes over here. And from the left hand side of the part, you will use all these activities over here. So we call them with the name activity, right? So which means you will drag one of these and you will drop it over here. And working with UiPath Studio or Studio X is basically drag and drop functionality, which means you would not be writing anything. Just like any other programming language used to write codes, you will not write codes. What we will do is we will drag and drop activities. We will drag and drop activities, which means from this activities panel over here, we will drag one activity and we'll put it over here. Then again drag and put it over here, drag and put it over here. And that is how we're going to work across the time. Here. So what is the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we will make use of a browser, right? So here you go. So we have the browser over here. So I'll drag and drop or use browser or application activity in the right middle of the screen. I'll repeat again. I'll delete it. How to drag and drop. I'll just say it to everyone. How to drag and drop, right? So go to the activities panel, select the activity. Now, say for example, if you are unable to locate the activity, then it's very simple. We have a search bar also over here, and in the search bar, just search for browser. See, do you see browser over here? So you see all the browser activities over here. The very first thing that you need to say, use the browser. So there you go. So just click on it. To be more precise, it's a left click, people. Click on it. Do not release the click. Do not leave the mouse. Drag it and just put it over this plus sign. The moment you are on the plus sign, leave the mouse click. There you go. Done. Yeah, that's how you do it. And now you need to tell him that what you have to do. You need to tell him that exactly, which means what is the application or the browser that you want to open up. So of course, I have my browser opened up in the background. Over here, you can say that you clearly see that in the studio, it is asking me that, indicate the application or indicate the browser that you want to work across, right? So over here, click on the sentences which says indicate the application to automate. Just click here, and then ultimately the studio minimizes himself, and then whatever is open in the background, it will go ahead and then it will start working on that. Right? It will go ahead and then it will start working on that. See, you see, he's able to now indicate that it's a browser. If you're okay with this, just click and done. And then again, the UiPath Studio will open up in front of you, and then over there you will see that it will get started, and it will tell you that this is the application that you have selected, and this is the URL. See this. It's so smart that he identified that you are working on a Chrome browser, and then this is the URL that you're working, which is rpachallenge.com. We did not wrote it, we just indicated him, saying that this is what you have to work across, and then ultimately on that browser that is working, is basically going ahead and then working for us. Yeah. Now, I have opened up the browser, right? What do I do next as a human? What we need to do is we need to click on start over here, because that's how the automation starts. That's how the challenge starts. So basically, we would also have to tell my bot that you need to click on start over here. And how do I tell my bot to click on start? It's very simple. We have an activity for it. And the activity is also called with the name click itself. The activity is also called by the name click itself, which means I would search for the click activity on the activities panel and then drag and drop it into the designer panel over here, and then drag and drop it into the designer panel over here. So let's search for the click activity. There you go. So CLICK, that's the click activity. So there you go. You can see multiple clicks over here, but I'm only interested with this click activity. So let's drag it and drop it over here inside here. Right now, where do I need to click? See, it's asking me indicate in Chrome, because we said we're starting Chrome, right? He's asking me now indicate in that Chrome browser and tell me what is that area that you want to click. So I'll go ahead. I'll say indicate in Chrome, right? Now I have to tell him what is the area that I need to click across. See, I have access to each and every element of this browser. See, do you see? I have access to each and every field. Now my question is, should I click here on the submit? Yes or no? Give me a confirmation on the chat window. Should I click on this submit now? Yes or no? No, right? Ideally, this is the first time. That means I should be clicking on this start. So what you will do is you will move your cursor on this start button. let there be an area, let there be a boundary across that start button, and then just click on that, right? So it will collect the data, let him collect the data by its own. Once this is done, now you can go ahead and say click on confirm. So this window will come up every time. All you have to do is just click on confirm. Done. See, it's so smart, right? See, slowly and gradually we are starting building it. See, this will open up a browser and then this will click on the start button, right? So what we will do now is, we will only run these two steps. We will only run these two steps, which is opening up the browser and then going ahead and then running the, clicking on the start button, right? So I'll close the browser. There you go. So there is no browser opened up here. You can see. Now I'll run the automation. How do you run the automation? It's very simple. On the ribbon bar, you have a run button. Just click on this run button. This will help you to run the automation, right? So let's go. I'll click here. I'll say run. So when you click on run, ideally what happens? UiPath Studio minimizes itself, and then the whatever activities is defined, it will start running those activities now, right? Okay, there you go. Now see the robot started. See, it opened up RPA challenge. I did not open it up. And then you should see that he will go ahead and then it will click on that start. See, do you see? See over here, run successful, it says. And if I open up the page, see, it's on round one. It's already on round one. Now, trust me, I did not, click here. My hands were here. It's the software robot who is going ahead and, getting all those stuff done, right? So we are done, which means round one has started. Now, what you need to do is you need to go ahead and add the details over here. You need to go ahead and add the details over here. Now, the next question is, where are these details present? Does anybody know where is the detail present? The detail is present in the Excel file. That's absolutely true. And then we have went ahead and we have already downloaded the Excel file, right? So whichever location you have downloaded it, please remember that location very well, because when we run the bot or when we say the bot, I want to use the Excel file, the bot should know the location where the Excel file is. Now, say for example, you said the Excel file will be there in the D drive and so on. And when you run the bot runs fine. But later on, if you delete the file from there, or if the file is already not existing over there, then it will cause the bot to an exception, and the bot will not run. And then you will come and say that the bot is not working fine and all those things. But that's nothing the case. The location that you have mentioned is completely wrong, which means your data is not ideally present in that location. So remembering the location also is very important, people, before you start working the data. So this is the data that I have, and my data is there in the desktop itself. So I'll give the location of the desktop only. Now, in order to do that, I need to tell my bot that I will work with the Excel file now. So you will have to make use of this activity which says use Excel file. This one. Because you have to tell him first use the Excel file, and then we will work with the remaining Excel activities that we have. So I'll drag and drop use Excel file over here. There you go. Now over here, you need to tell him the location of the Excel file. So click on this folder icon and navigate to the file. Desktop, there you go, this is the file. So this is the location of the file. Now, what's the next thing? Next thing is the Excel file, if you look carefully, has number of rows. It does not have only one row, it has number of rows. And in every round, I need only one row of data, which means I need to iterate on this Excel file. I need to run the data of the Excel file on a loop, and in every iteration or in every loop, I should pick up only one data, which means a single row of a data. That means when round one is working, I will only pick up row one data. When round two is working, I will pick up row two data. When round three is working, I'll pick up row three data. And this is how my data from the Excel file will be picked up and it will be entered into the website. So my next question is, how do I iterate on the Excel? So you can see there is an Excel category over here. If you expand on the Excel category, you can see there is a lot of activities present over here. And the activity which you're going to use is called as for each Excel row. For each Excel row. For each is a loop, right? Which I've learned across in most programming language. And what are we looping across? We're looping across the rows in the Excel file. So I'll drag and drop it over here. The for each Excel row. Now over here, you need to select the range over here. Say for example, see there is only sheet one over here. Let's say for example, I add multiple sheets, right? So there are now 4 sheets present over here. I need to tell my bot that out of these multiple sheets, which sheets do I want to work with? I want to work with sheet one range of data. So over here in the range section, I'll say click on the plus icon. And from the Excel file, see sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. So whatever is there in the Excel file, it gets reflected here. Which sheet number do we want to work with? Sheet 1, right? So I'll select sheet 1 over here. And then the next thing is has headers. It's already unchecked. We will check it. The reason is because my Excel file has headers, which means my data starts from here. If I do not select that, then it will take this also as a data. I don't want to do that because my first call row is a header. This is the reason why I said it has headers. Now what? Done. What we need to do is we need to type into the Excel file, in the website. In order to type, we have an activity. The activity name is called as type into. See, there you go. Everywhere if you need to type something, the activity name is called as type into. Just drag and drop the type into over here, right? And then indicate in the Chrome, where do you want to type? So let's go with the first name. Where is first name? Where is first name? There you go. So here is the first name field. So I'll indicate the first name text field. So that, and then click on confirm. Clear? Now the next question is, in this type text area, what do you need to type? You need to type the name from the Excel file, right? So click on the plus icon, and then from the current row, see all the column names are available here. So I'm gonna select first name over here. Now let's do it for all the remaining fields that we have. So drag and drop the type into activity. Click indicate in Chrome. First name is done. Let's do it for last name. There you go. This is the last name. And then click on confirm. And then what are we supposed to type here? We are supposed to type the last name. So we'll click on the plus icon in the text area. We'll click on the plus icon. From the current row, we'll select the last name column. So whatever is there in the last name, that data will be entered over there. And now the same we have to do it for all the remaining fields that we have. See, if you look here, you can see all the fields are available, right, from that Excel file. So again, I'll have another type into activity. There you go. After last name, it's company name. So I'll indicate company name over here. Then click on confirm. And then what am I supposed to type? On the plus, from the current row, choose company name. Then again, for the next activity, this would be for role in the company now. Okay. I'll just drag and drop it inside. It should be inside, not outside. After this, there you go. Here. Indicate in the Chrome. This we're doing for role in company. So here is the role in company. Done. Now you can go ahead and click on confirm. Awesome. Then let's go ahead. Current row, role in company. Now we have to do it for 3 more fields: address, email, and then the phone number. If you look at, we have done till role in company. Now we have to complete the address, email, and the phone number. So 3 more type into activity. So there we go. Let's do it for the address field. So here is the address field. Let's click on confirm. What am I supposed to type? From the current row, I'll choose address. Again, I type into activity. This will happen for the phone number, I guess, or the email address. Email address is it, right? So this is the email address. And then click on confirm. And then there you go, current row, email address. And then lastly, the last type into activity for the phone number. So again, indicate on Chrome. Here is the phone number. There you go. And then let's click on confirm. Awesome. So all the fields are done. After you enter all the 7 fields, what you do, you click on submit. So it is nothing but again a click activity, right? So we have clicked on start, right? So we'll use the same click activity over here, and then we will go ahead and then we'll click on the submit button over here. So let me go ahead and call the click activity. There you go. Drag and drop the click activity here. And where should I click it? I should click it here on the submit button. Right? Done. Let's hit confirm. Now, these activities, people, are so smart. See, the click activity is giving you an option. What type of click do you want? A single click, double click, a down click, up click. So it's a single click for it. What click or a middle click for it? It's a right click. That's all you do. And then what? You're done, people. Right? That's it. You're done with everything. Now, since this is running in a loop for each Excel row, this will run for the first row, second row, third row, fifth, sixth, seventh, till the point there is data in the Excel file. Now it's the moment of truth, people. Now it's the moment of truth. Let us see now the bot in action. Let us see now the bot in action. So before that, let me go ahead and close this browser. So as you can see that, there is no browser opened up here. It's just the studio and the Excel file over here. Now let's go ahead and let's click on the run button. Now what we are expecting is the Chrome browser with RPA challenge should open up. It should click on the start button and then it will start entering the values. Then click on submit, then round 2, then start entering the data. So let's go ahead. Let's click on the run button. There you go. And the bot will start now. Very good. Started. There you go. Now it will go ahead and click on the start button over there. And there you go. Right? And trust me, my hands are here, as you can see, and I'm not typing it. It's the bot, who is responsible to go ahead and type all the data over here. Right? So now you can easily see that, irrespective of, what we do, the bot is able to, go ahead and, run the automation for us, right? Which means, we have only done it for, the 10 fields over here, as I am, always saying this, but, just imagine, if there were, millions and millions of, records of data over here, then in that case, you can imagine, what benefit, or, how much of a time saving this particular, activity would be. Yeah. Okay. Okay, just a second. Let me run the program again. I manually close my VM over here. There you go. Let me first save it and run the project again. There you go. Just a second. My VM is behaving very weird today. Give me a second, people. Let me fix this setting and I'll start the bot again. Okay, cool. There. I hope this works out. Perfect. So it's entering the round 1 data now. First name, echo the last name, echo email, and then the phone number. And in the same way, he's gonna go ahead and enter all the records which are available here. So by now you can imagine, right? What power does RPA have, and how UiPath is going ahead and then providing solutions for an RPA. And this is what you guys would be building in this hackathon that you have participated in. So look out for a very good use cases, and then move ahead and then start for an automation processes and build the bot. Follow the student guide very well. Follow the student guide very well, and then you can always go ahead and build the bots with the number of use cases that you want, and also for all the use cases, as you said, right? What are all the automation criteria that you're choosing? For example, Excel, browser automation, Word, PowerPoint, all those things mentioned over here. You have to use at least 3 of them in one single project, and then go ahead and build the automation policy, right? So I'll guide you across, those multiple, steps again, and then we'll look forward. There you go. Done. It's completed. Run is completed. Our bot ran successfully well, and towards this studio, let me just quickly open this project that we've created. So over here, you can see that, on the left hand side of the screen, you have those options over here from where we are mentioning that you should have at least these, done. For example, these one, the UI automation, browser automation, at least, three, which means it should have browser, it should have Excel, it should have email automation. Then your bot, the use case that you have built it gets qualified, and then we can put it for evaluation. Of course, you can use multiple of these, but it should have at least three of them, working for it. Then only we put it for that. See over here, you have those, for Excel, you have all the Excel activities. For mail, you have all the different mail activities. For presentation, that is PowerPoint, you have all the PowerPoint activities. For Word, you have all the Word activities. This is the app and web. So you use application browser, so you have all these activities over here. So out of these categories of activities that are present over here, you should at least have three of them in your project, and that qualifies your your project, and then we will start evaluating it, right? And of course, as said earlier, whatever is being mentioned over in the a document, please make sure you follow the document very well, and then start building your automation over there, right? Completing your diplomas is very important, and sharing it and tagging us on the LinkedIn is also very important, because that gives us a confirmation that you have completed your diploma, and then you can start evaluating your thoughts over there. And we would not be having the second session, the industry expert session. We would end the session over here, and you can start learning, and you can start implementing or looking for use cases after the session itself. Yeah, any doubts, anyone, people? I'll repeat again, we will not be having the second session. This is the end of the session for today, and then from now onwards you can start studying, revising the concept, and then start building your bots, right? Evaluation time is, submission time is already there in the document. So we're expecting you to be building your bots tomorrow also. And day after tomorrow, you will be submitting the bots. Any questions, anyone, people, before we end this session? Good. So I wish you all the best, people, and I hope that we see a good number of use cases coming across from all of you. And of course, the top use cases that we get, of course, we will be highlighting those use cases to the entire UiPath community. And it's a question, is there any limit to select the project? No, there's no limit to select the projects. You can build a number of projects, but given the point, your project should be an automation project, which means, whatever process you're choosing, that process, should follow the criteria of automation, right? That it should be, repetitive, it should be data driven, and all those things should be clearly, we should clearly be seeing those, in your automation projects that we have. And of course, those three points that you mentioned, you should be actually using at least three of the activities category that you have, so that, we could start evaluating the project. Yeah. How to install UiPath Studio? Everything is mentioned in the mail. So when you request the Studio download, over there you'll get a document, and just follow the document very well, and then the document speaks about how to download the Studio. So everything is mentioned over there. Yeah. Okay. So that is all from my side, people. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best, and hope to see good projects coming in, good hackathon, good projects coming in from here. And then let's meet some of you at the evaluation, right? Of course, not everyone will qualify, only the best of the best projects will qualify, and then we'll meet you guys in the evaluation zone, right? all the best. We don't have any sessions after this. This is the last session. So start preparing, and then you start looking for use cases, and then start building reports. Right. Thank you so much, people. Bye bye. All the best. See you.